if the customers are showing maybe even more distrust where they feel like they can do it on their own because there's a lot of AI tools that say they can. There's almost a question of if they feel like they really need a marketing agency. How are you able to navigate that question?
Yoast SEO has been around forever, and technically if you can utilize Yoast SEO, you can do search engine optimization. It's still, at the end of the day, do you have the time to be able to do it yourself? Do you have the know-how to be able to do it yourself? And then they start doing this and they go, I don't want to do this anymore. Who's around me that can help out?
Most of our clients, I'd say about 85%, maybe 90%, we handle everything. We have a few that are kind of partners in it, where they want to write the blogs and they have a lot of good input. It's definitely not the majority, but it can be pretty fruitful when the clients do what they say they're going to do.
We've had more conversations about why don't, if you want to have that tool, that's great, and you can have this part of the process, and we could just, accommodate that as part of everything else we're doing or whatever. So there's still, I think, finding new ways and rhythms that AI tooling is happening more so on the client side, but not, eliminating the need for agency support by any means.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of SEO On Air. I'm your host, Koa Kauwe. This is brought to you by Stan Ventures. We're excited to have three guests with us today that are in the agency field and are running their own agencies. Do a short introduction to each of you so our listeners know who they're listening to. Nate Turner, co-founder and CEO of 10Speed. Nate leads 10Speed and thrives on how fast search evolves. He knows building smart content systems because that's something we talked about that I was excited to have you kind of maybe expand for us on the podcast. Patrick's with us. He's the CEO of MarketKeep, an agency focused on helping small businesses grow through practical, efficient SEO. It's nice to have a perspective, too, that's from the smaller business world. I think that there's often a nice contrast in the calls, so we appreciate having your perspective here with us, Patrick. And Adam, founder of Creative Click Media. Adam is the co-founder of Creative Click Media, a longtime entrepreneur, and a believer in strategic, ethical SEO, which is something that we sometimes see contrasts on when we have a lot of different agency owners, how they want to approach marketing their customers. So again, Adam, thanks for being here. We're excited to have all three of you. The first question I wanted to ask you guys is a broad question, but one that lets us kind of pick into the expertise of all three of you. What does it take to run a successful marketing agency today?
I would say the ability to roll with the punches, at least from my perspective, right? I mean, we are a SEO company for small businesses, so I think I come in with a plan every morning, and then by 10 o'clock a.m., that plan is just ripped to shreds a little bit, and you have to kind of accommodate. But it's fun. Every day is unique. Every day is an opportunity to learn, grow, and develop something in the future. But I think you just have to be able to adapt.
I agree, and I think it's both adapting to the market and the tactics and what needs to be done, and then it's also adapting to how other companies are changing. Your clients are changing, and their companies are changing. The way their work is changing, and therefore interfacing. One of the things I was going to say to this question was just we've been doing this for over 5 years, and I think each year there's been a dramatically more people that are really oriented around business impact. And so we started out very much oriented around that as an agency, and a lot of clients were we just want ranking and clicks, and just get us traffic. And we would try to explain why you want to care about conversions. And I really think that fast forward to today, and that's really the efficiency of companies and really orienting towards business impact has become a huge shift, in the last 5 years. And so I think that's another area that is important for agencies to succeed, is just having that the system in place to be able to do that for clients and not just focus on vanity metrics.
Yeah, and I would add having the systems to prove that. I think that can be a hard piece of the puzzle sometimes. And when you can prove the value, then the clients are happy and they stay. Sometimes you can be getting the results. We learned this early on. You can be getting the results and not necessarily tying it all together adequately. That's where systems come into play. And I think any successful agency figures that out at some point, or they will cease to be successful.
One thing that came up in the call yesterday, a recorded call yesterday, was along the same lines of that proving that data out. We've seen traffic actually has, I mean, talking to what you said, Nate, like the perspective has moved away from traffic and into revenue. One of the assessments we did recently, they had lost keyword rankings, but then they had lost some traffic from some main keywords, but some of their keywords had stayed exactly in the position they had been for the last year and had seen a pretty significant decline in traffic without having changed position. And it's one of those punches that has kind of hit the marketing industry overall, is that traffic has changed. And so I'm curious with how you guys are rolling with that punch that's really hit your customers, because they're seeing that number. They may not understand all the revenue aspect of it. They were paying attention to traffic because that's what they were sold initially. How have you guys adjusted to that conversation?
I think a big piece of it is with all the AI stuff, generative engine optimization or answer engine optimization has become a big part of what we do. I think we adapted to that pretty quickly, even before some of the software makers had caught up. Luckily, they are, SEMrush and some of the other ones where now we can track those things. That's why website traffic is down for the most part, because a lot of our keyword rankings are still up, doing great, but traffic is down across the board, and that's a big reason why. And that's why you have to look in your analytics and you see ChatGPT in particular has become a huge referrer of traffic. So I think again it's kind of back to the whole adapt or die mentality.
I don't know if you guys saw it. We saw it a lot across clients with kind of the AI search component, and then also there was kind of that like very, very brief quote unquote scare with the num 100 change, where all the impressions fell off in Search Console. And it really, through all of that, I think it's been for anyone who wasn't fully oriented on the business impact conversions that I was talking about before, I think this has sort of been an accelerant for them, because it's been like, your traffic is down 8% or 40% or whatever it might be, but your conversions are good or they're up. Like you're, in the same thing there with those, impressions, and kind of helping show what was real and what was not. And I think kind of, like I said, just orienting that much more around the conversion side of it, I think has been really helpful. And I think that clients, for us anyway, have adapted quickly to understanding search becoming more multi-surface and referral traffic from the LLMs, but also just starting to understand a bit more around visibility in the LLMs and share of voice and some of that stuff too. So yeah, it's all shifted pretty quickly, but I think people have done a good job of catching up to that.
No, I would totally agree. And I also think too, and I'd be curious to know if you guys have this happen for you, but it's almost led to more in-depth conversations for us with our clients, right? And I think, Nate, it's pretty cool that you were talking about optimizing for conversions, because you're right, you can have the best website traffic, out of all of your competitors, but if you're not converting, what's that traffic for, right? And how are you going to be able to ultimately grow and sustain your business? So I don't think we've ever shied away from how search has shifted. And I've always kind of said, as long as you can answer people's questions, you're going to do fine. And yes, from time to time, people will change how they initially ask that question. Maybe they're going to ChatGPT. Maybe they're going to a social media platform. I mean, Reddit has been huge for the home service industry too. I mean, it's just, I think for us, it's led to better conversations with our clients, and I think it's led to us to being more creative, I think, in being able to support clients at the end of the day as well.
What questions are you guys getting from your customers that are giving you a perspective on what the customer is starting to want? I'm curious to hear, our perspective is often mostly from the agencies that are seeing the changes, and especially over the past couple of years, there was some really excitement about the tools, and then there was questioning whether the tools were effective at all, and then there's been a nice balance now where people are finding how to use them effectively. But your customers, they may still see traffic as the main core success rate metric. They may see keywords, they may see all these things, and now they're being just flooded with AI marketing. Everyone has an AI tool that's going to solve all their problems. How does that translate into the onboarding phase for you guys? Like, how are you able to translate their requests into functional marketing when, according to a lot of the agencies we talk to, most of their requests still fit into the traditional SEO basket?
I can jump in. I think we've certainly, you can tell when a prospect is coming to you understanding kind of the landscape and knowing what they need, or where they need support, versus when they're coming to you because the board asked the CEO what they're doing about AI, and the CEO asked marketing what they're doing about AI, and marketing asked us what to do about AI. So I think that's a pretty big differentiator at the moment. Like, you really tell the difference in that level of knowledge in around it. And so I think that's been a big part of it for us, and just kind of a starting point for what we're talking about, what's necessary, and kind of how the conversation shapes from there. One's far more education required than the other.
I'm going to narrow down the question a little bit and ask it again here too, because I do think I'm curious to hear if the customers are showing maybe even more distrust, where they feel like they can do it on their own because there's a lot of AI tools that say they can. There's almost a question of if they feel like they really need a marketing agency. And how are you able to navigate that question? Because I do feel like agencies are at a unique way of needing to defend themselves against tools that say they can do what you do.
I mean, again, we work primarily with small business owners, right? And more so in like the home service industries. And I think the way I answer that question is we absolutely have to defend ourselves a little bit more as to why you would hire us, and what our expertise is. But at the same time too, 90% of our clients have WordPress websites. Yoast SEO has been around forever, and technically if you can utilize Yoast SEO, you can do search engine optimization. So it's not like these tools to help optimize your website haven't been around forever. They have. It's still, at the end of the day, do you have the time to be able to do it yourself? Do you have the know-how to be able to do it yourself? And I think by and large, what we have found is we work with clients throughout the United States, but really within the past 6 months too, we've seen more of an influx of our leads coming out of the Baltimore area, because people will say, I need to do this, I want to do this. And then they start doing this and they go, I don't want to do this anymore. Who's around me that can help out? That's how I've been looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's pretty similar for us too. I mean, nationwide, with a focus locally, and actually, what's been interesting is that the leads from ChatGPT have been more nationwide. But it's really, like you said, a lot of people that just don't have the time. SEO, I say it's not rocket science, but it is a science. You need to treat it as such. The people that are our clients are smart people. They run successful businesses. Sure, they could figure it out, but they're busy doing what they do. They don't have time to do SEO at the level that we do. We do have some clients that are, most of our clients, I'd say about 85%, maybe 90%, we handle everything. It's, a concierge service, essentially. We have a few that are kind of partners in it, where they want to write the blogs, and they have a lot of good input. It's definitely not the majority, but it can be pretty fruitful when the clients do what they say they're going to do.
I would say, Koa, we've probably already gone through that for us. Like, we're primarily working with tech companies, software, and I think just naturally that space, the marketers in that space are very much on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff. And so I would say earlier 2025 is where we definitely had more of those conversations around, not sure that we need an agency, we can do all this with AI. And I think that we've already kind of come through that a bit to like, well, just because we can, like to what you guys were saying, just because we can doesn't mean that we're getting around to doing it. We're not doing it consistently, or we got it to 90%, but that last 10% is actually pretty hard to make it good enough, or a lot of those things. Or it's still like, sure, like an LLM could spit out a strategy and topic map and, all kinds of stuff. But when you actually start to get into the nuance of that, and, your competitors are rapidly changing, and, all of that stuff that just still requires the human layer, that I think that's where everyone's kind of, at least for us, come back on that. And we've had more conversations about like, well, why don't, if you want to have that tool, that's great, and you can have this part of the process, and we could just, accommodate that as part of everything else we're doing or whatever. So there's still, I think, finding new ways and rhythms that AI tooling is happening more so on the client side, but not, eliminating the need for agency support by any means.
Yeah. Well, so one thing we saw over the last year was that, like I kind of already mentioned, it was like the hype of AI, the fear that SEO was like in serious danger. And then the reality of like, oh, everything that AI does is still reliant on most of the data that comes from standard SEO practices. Your customers are getting that flood of AI marketing. And as agency owners, you've also been flooded with a ton of AI tools that say that they're going to solve your problems. We know from the past few months of interviewing people that they've tested tons, and some just weren't worth the money that they put into it. I am curious how you guys have ridden that wave of hype and fear and normalcy, even on just producing the right tools for your own agency to make you better. And I'd be curious if you're open to sharing some, what other agencies might need to hear about the tools you've used that have made you a better agency, and what you would recommend.
I'm happy to jump in. Ko, we may have talked about this before. I've been pretty vocal that there's a lot of desire for people to look at like what AI can do in a very exciting, like, oh, I can use it for video to create a whole commercial, or I can have it build me this entire strategy. And I think that it's caused a lot of people to miss like looking much lower at a far more tactical level of just like, if you think about like, we've had video transcription with AI for quite a while now. Like that's an extremely basic task, but it like adds a lot and is streamlined for people. And so so much around project management and just our operations has been huge. And we use ClickUp, and they've built a lot around their feature called Brain, which is you can tie into multiple LLM models, plus it sits on top of your own PM database. And so there's just massive efficiencies there to, if you use the call recorder from ClickUp and everything, like, hey, analyze all interactions with this client over the last 6 months and, help me understand where this is at, where there's opportunities, whatever, like that kind of stuff has been huge. And so it's not even like a thing that's out there as like this sexy new, like cutting edge AI tool that just got a huge round of funding. It's an AI feature that's been built inside of ClickUp, but it's been massively impactful for us in just doing better work, having better context for clients.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I was looking at ClickUp a while ago, and it's hard when you're locked into a platform. Like we use Basecamp. It's great. It's simple. Clients get it. And I've looked at ClickUp, Monday.com, but you kind of get married to these platforms. It'd be so hard for us to switch right now.
It wasn't easy moving to it. We moved from Asana, but
I know you're making me think I need to revisit that conversation, because we use Monday.com, and I'm like, oh, this kind of sounds a lot better.
Yeah, but I don't remember which one of you said it earlier, but it's the exact same thing. Like the feature's there for a lot of people that are already in ClickUp, and if they're not using it, then it doesn't really matter. And so just because you have it doesn't mean you do it and whatnot. So but for us, that's been huge, is not chasing some of the shiny things and really just understanding that even just in our own operations and stuff, there's a lot of efficiencies and ways to level up.
I think that goes back to that first question of like, what makes a successful agency? Something I feel like I felt recently with the agencies I've talked to is, every person that's in an agency, there's either two reasons they're in it. They love helping people, or they really want to make money off of people. And you can usually tell those agencies apart. There's some agencies that are trying to make money, and there's some that are in it to solve problems. In sales, I've always leaned on the side of like, I love solving problems. Whether or not I get paid is it's the natural consequence of doing a good job helping somebody. I think most marketing agencies are along the same lines. It's hardly sales if you feel like you're doing something for someone. It's more of an act of service. But there's always this level of enthusiasm when you meet somebody and you get to know all about their company and you feel like you have a solution that's going to solve their problems. And where I feel like there's a big drop off, and this ties back to the conversations about those tools, is in execution. Like, you can really be so excited and want to solve this problem so well. But if you get off of those last few phone calls and you don't have a plan built out, or you don't have a path for the next 6 months, 9 months, and you just kind of are winging it, you tend to like that drop off from that initial sales conversation where you had the solution to the actual fulfillment feels pretty steep. And I'm curious to just hear how you guys how you try to avoid dropping anything between that initial sales and the onboarding phase into making sure that your execution is delivering exactly what you want for the customer. How are you able to maintain that quality over the time period that you're fulfilling work for your customer?
Say for us, it's processes. Having lists built out for everything. Being very descriptive with the custom needs, wants, goals of each client, and AI is super helpful with that. Always recording the calls and transcribing them. So that it can be relayed accurately to the team. Prior to having all of the AI transcription, it was very hard for me to go back. It's hard to write nearly as fast as you speak, especially when you're the person in the meeting and you want to still be present. So I try to just save it all in the back of my brain and jot it down after. And and now it's very efficient. And low having. I mean, we've had no employee turnover in 4.5 years. That is huge. This way. The team just knows how to get it done. That the onboarding for a new employee is a steep curve. I would say probably about 6 months until they're at that dangerous level of operation. Having zero turnover makes it so that everybody is high level.
Are all three of you using tools to record the initial conversations with your customers?
We record every conversation with our customers because I think otherwise, we just don't want anything to slip through the cracks. And that's how we keep that. We call it like the day one mentality, right? Where that first time you interact with a client, you're always excited. And we've had clients now that have been with us for 7 years because it's still that day one mentality, in the sense of you just have to bring that excitement and energy and passion into each project.
Is it safe to say that it's a red flag if your agency isn't recording those conversations at this point? Because it always felt weird to see those bots in your calls early on, and now I would assume if your agency's not using it, they have to be dropping things through the cracks. Yeah, are they really adopting the best practices of the agency you want to be working with?
Yeah, I mean, now we might have a meeting with 5 people and 5 bots in there. Everybody's got one.
We had 4 humans and 4 bots.
That's awesome.
So one of the things that we'll take it, transitioning from AI back into what makes agencies successful using AI. Where have you been able to balance using? Where do you still feel like you need human work in your teams? Where have you really not been able to make things more efficient with AI? And where do you feel like you stand out from human talent?
I mean, I'll go at a very basic level. AI is a great tool when used properly. You still have to be able to ask the right questions, right? And I think be able to kind of put it in a way that, at least for us, right? We'll have clients say "Hey, I searched this on ChatGPT, and this is what I think we should be doing with our website today," right? And we're okay, all right, let's see this prompt. And for them, it was basically how do you get a website to the first page of Google, right? And it just spits out the most basic information. But if you can't dig deep and really understand best practices when it comes to search engine optimization in general, if you're not going to get the right answer. So I always go back to you have to be able to ask the right questions and in the context of that question as well. That's what separates good agencies from bad agencies, but also people that use AI correctly versus those that just are shooting from the hip a little bit.
It's so much of the context and nuance to solving those client problems. And so even if um, even if the AI could um, take all of the information you get and synthesize it and come up with a good solution, it's still having someone knowing in client calls the right questions to ask, and like, wait, so you said you're trying to move up into the enterprise, like what does that mean for your product roadmap, and what, how are you thinking about sales, and what, all those questions that come about. Maybe again, the answer to all those questions could be put into AI and kind of leveraged that way. But knowing all those questions to ask, and having that the historical and understanding where competitors are at. I'm not saying that AI won't be able to do that at some point, but as of right now, I think there's just so many things that the human authority and experience goes a long way in still kind of really solving the problems. And then Patrick, like you said, the AI is just a helpful tool in that process.
I think asking the right questions is really where my mind went with it too. Actually, it's like if I'm trying to run a company, and you're my marketing guy, I don't want to try to empty everything in my brain out on you, and it's just not time efficient. It's not effective. It's frustrating. You have to ask me the right questions to get this moving the right way, and that's still where I feel like the human aspect plays a huge role in it. The content has been a huge piece of that. We've had an interesting roller coaster there as well, where everyone said they were using AI, and then all of a sudden they were hiring human writers back. This question might be one you guys were not prepared for. It's a little more, I think, aggressive in wondering about the future of AI, but there's the frustration of some agencies and some publishers that they feel like they've trained AI to a certain extent. We had an agency owner on that worked in the food, like recipes and food like influencers, and it was really interesting talking to him because I felt like I was going to have an interesting conversation where like, how much has it hurt you? And he very confidently said like, oh, it's working really well for me right now because they're needing to make changes, and I can tell them like how to get their content to be produced beyond what ChatGPT is going to produce. Like they're going to have to go deeper into the content, not about just making bread, but it's about like breads for certain types of events or emotions or feelings. And it's like deeper to like really funnel down into what they do. And it was interesting because I agreed with him. And at the same time, I could see how he was also training future AIs every time he produces a new piece of content to capitalize on that and have it accessible inside of their platform rather than on his customer's website. So I am curious how you guys are feeling about the way that AI is either like kind of predicting the future again. Like, how do you see marketing evolving as zero click becomes a potential possibility as publishers are maybe getting less traffic? Your job is becoming far more complex in that it's not just search engine optimization. I really stuck to search everywhere optimization. How do you feel like SEO has evolved to search everywhere? And how are you navigating a very, very changing field when traffic is reducing to increase eyes for your customer? Very complex question and very multi-parted, but just take a stab at where you feel like you had something to share.
I'm just going to rip off Nate's answer from earlier in the podcast and talk about it's really optimizing for conversions, right? I think if you get caught up in here's how many impressions you served and here's how much traffic your website was generating, ultimately you are setting yourself up for failure. At least that's how I see it right now. But if you can educate your client and you can educate yourself and set those expectations that we're going to be optimizing for conversions and bringing the right qualified traffic to you. I'm not even going to say to your website anymore. I'm just going to say to you. Then, I think that's ultimately where things are going right now. So
I think we're already seeing a bit of it, like the elevation of brand, and brand marketing. I think has become a bigger piece just in the last 2 years with all of this, that like the amount of people like share of voice or sentiment, was like our PR agency does this thing once a year to kind of figure out our share of voice, and like it was just very like, oh, that's a brand metric, and brand's hard to measure and that kind of stuff. And I think that there are a lot of people shifting towards that because there is sort of that maybe not democratization of knowledge, but like you said, a recipe for bread and then a recipe for bread for whatever, like that's going to continue to proliferate through all aspects of knowledge and facts and whatnot. And so I think it's good. I think
Did you say democracy of knowledge? Is that the term that you just?
I did. I don't know if that's exactly the way I would.
I think it makes sense actually.
You say with confidence it works.
Yeah, but I think there's aspects to all of this that have forced people away from like, oh, we can just growth hack this, or we can just optimize it with an SEO agency, and just like having to be much more holistic and well-rounded marketing, good positioning, a strong brand. The product has to be good, good product reviews, all that stuff. So, but there's certainly a lot of those niche content cases where in like a recipe industry or whatever, where I don't know what the fate is for some of that.
Adam, do you have any thoughts on it?
I think these guys kind of covered everything.
I really like the simple answer of like, hey, there's so much noise around. Like if we're going to just be like avoiding every single potentially bad thing, we're going to be handicapped, right? Like you're really just saying, hey, we're going to go after converting revenue for you. And that's getting you revenue. That's the end of the conversation if we can track that. The complication of that is tracking it lately though, right? There's still like it feels like everyone's needing to get a whole lot better at like their team asking that first phone call, how did you hear about us? And hoping the customer actually translates that correctly.
Mm-hmm. Which they don't, but yeah.
What are the biggest challenges you guys see for marketing over the next, let's say 2026? We're almost there. Over the next year, where do you see yourselves evolving the most because of the changes that are happening?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just joke. We're becoming more social, right? Where before we kind of just relied on search, but now I think that conversation is happening on social. It's happening on forums, and you have to be able to adapt to those scenarios. So I think 2026 for us is all about putting ourselves out there even a little bit more, right? And helping our clients understand that, you actually need to be aware of what's going on, not just on your social media platforms, but also just the conversations people are having about your brand out there online, and if they are having it at all. And if they aren't, we got to fix that, right? So
For us, it's like more storytelling. We've been experimenting, with a lot of the AI stuff. Actually, we have this cool project where we got a dog. He was supposed to be the office dog. That was 2 weeks before COVID. And then COVID happened. We had no more office. We gave it up, went fully remote, never went back. And
Did you keep the dog, Adam?
oh yeah, he was always going to be my dog. But we animated him. We turned him into an animated series, and it's been phenomenal for our social media. It's really cute. It's like Pixar style. I even hired my son now to help do the animations. And it's been really cool because social media gets pretty stale, especially since we're a remote company. It's hard to have. We know the content that does the best is the ones that have our faces in it, real photos, real people. Except when you have cats, dogs, or in this case, animated cats and dogs. So that's been one really cool way that we've been staying ahead of the curve. Just staying in front of people. It's been a really cool branding piece.
So you got the next Snoopy on your hands over there?
Nate, what about you guys? What do you expect to change the most over the next year?
I think we've already been doing a bit of it, but really just doing a lot more discovery early on with prospects, and even just more conversations with existing clients to kind of start to figure out what the new hard parts are for them. I think that's.
I love it. Yeah, they're going to tell you where their problems are.
Yeah, solving the hard parts for them. And I think that, like I said before, the way companies are operating and expected to operate internally, you have a lot of teams that have been stripped down to a marketing team of one. So all of a sudden that's, new challenges and whatnot. And so I think that's, just not being, I think one of the biggest traps for agencies that have been around for 5 or more years is just getting so married to your own process and your SOWs that you're unwilling to see that, like, it's not what it should be today, And so I think that's an area where we're just trying to make sure that we're adapting our workflows and stuff to kind of keep staying along with where our clients have challenges.
I didn't prepare you guys for that question. You had no idea that was coming. So I'm actually really glad that you all had good answers, because I think of one thing I've seen from a streamer, like I think he streams gaming. He was talking about how everyone that's doing like YouTube, for instance, there's so many AI video editing tools now that they'll record their full session and then punch it through an AI tool and have it pick up what AI suspects to be their best moments and their best this and their best that. And he says that's terrible. If everyone that's out there streaming uses the same tools for it, you're going to watch the same video on every single person's channel over and over and over again. And there's like a complacency to like the least path of resistance. This is the easiest way to get it out, so we'll just get it out. And I think that's what a lot of agencies are going to default into, is like, hey, this is the easiest way for us to produce everything you need. And that works until everyone figures it out. And then you have to hire a marketing agency to differentiate yourself. And I love that you guys all had answers for how to differentiate yourself, because that's a huge sign for me that we're talking to the right agencies on the podcast. So I actually think that we may wrap up here. Those were some of the last questions I asked. I had to ask you guys today. So I think it's a great place to end and just say that I really appreciate you guys being here and letting me throw a couple curveballs at you to say, what are you going to do different for the next year, and have those answers. I may follow up with you guys on LinkedIn. I'll probably have my team make a post, and we'll have one follow-up question. We'd love for you guys to engage and interact with each other. This is definitely a networking piece. We love all the agencies that are part of our network and that are hopefully connected with each other through the podcast itself. So Patrick, Adam, Nate, thank you for being members of the SEO On Air podcast. We appreciate your time.